And I see we are being live streamed now, so I want to welcome everyone to Prescott Town Council's meeting for Monday, October 3rd, 2022. It's 6:02, so we will get started. Item 1 is our usual call to order, and I'll note, as we always do, that we'll begin this meeting of council by acknowledging that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Oneida and the Haudenosaunee peoples. So item 2, with approval of the agenda tonight, I'll note the declaration in a moment, but I would ask council's leave to move item 12.1 just down to the end of section 12, so that can be handled adjacent with 13.1, because I will be declaring an indirect conflict on those two items. So if I could ask for an approval of the amended agenda. Recommendation is that the amended agenda for the council meeting of October 3rd, 2022 be approved as presented. Could I ask for mover, Councillor McConnell, seconder, Councillor Burton. Any discussion on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. So the declarations, I will declare an indirect declaration on 8.2 that changes to the healthcare system resolution that's coming forward tonight. And 12.1, which is just for information, but it's regards to Bill 3, the Strong Marriage Building Homes Act. And then on 13.1, on Bill 109, that's a resolution that arises from, I think, something that was raised a few meetings ago as well. So as I said, if we can, we'll just move 12 down, 12.1 down to just before 13.1 if we could, just to make it a little easier for me to vacate for a few minutes. Any other declarations of interest this evening? Seeing none, 4 presentations, none tonight, 5 delegations, none tonight. Excuse me, 6 is minutes of our previous council meeting. We do have 6.1, that's the meeting minutes from September 20th. Recommendation reads the council minutes dated September 20th, 2022, be accepted as presented. Could I ask for mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Shankar, and then I think he has a question. Go ahead, please.
There was an amended.
Oh, yes, I did see that on the email. So that was just out of order or something?
Yes, through you, Mayor Todd, it was brought to my attention that when we made the changes at the last meeting, incorrect. So that change had been made. So in the paper packages, it won't be reflected, but online it is correct, and the version to sign.
Okay, so we're not really, it's not amended. It is actually what we have. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for raising that, Councilor. Any further discussion on that set of minutes? Seeing none, now I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And communications and petitions 7.1 South Granville District High School Student Leadership Conference sponsorship. Do we have just a little background on that? I apologize. I must have missed that when I reviewed the agenda.
Yeah,
that's from Christine. Please go ahead.
I can speak to that briefly. We received a request from Christine Sloan from South Granville High School. They're putting together a leadership conference, and they've put a request out for funding for the bus trip. And I said we decided we'd bring this forward for council to make a decision. I believe Matthew can speak, but there is some allocated funds left over for the community.
Yeah, we just was it 1,300. Matthew, did you want to let us know what's available there? But we just, I think last meeting we approved this.
800.
Was it that much?
I think so.
Mr. Armstrong?
I think there's $2,650 remaining in the community grant unallocated funds. And so in the past, councils allocated up to $500 for these types of requests, but certainly it's up to council in terms of how much money they'd like to allocate towards this, if they wish to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Open it up for discussion. So what is the number? I see there, are they just asking for the 550 but I see that's 550 each for the students. So are they leaving it?
It's actually 5,000. The cost of the bus, they don't really ask, but the cost of the bus is 5,000. Yeah.
Yep.
So the actual ask there, I'm assuming they're asking the other South Granville municipalities. I would guess on that because it is the school. Do we know anything?
Through you, I'm not sure if they put the request in their schools, and I'm not sure whether it was for parents or the students that were looking, if they were reaching out to anybody else. I can definitely reach out to Christine Sloan to get more information if council would like me to.
Sure, that's probably a Gory and then Ray. Please.
Sorry, when I read it, I don't think they were asking about the bus. Looks like the bus is covered, but they're asking for the cost of the conference and hotel, which is $550 each at nine student leaders.
$49.50 or something.
Right. But they're doing fundraising as well, so.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a little time on that. It's November 6th to the 8th, so I think we probably can gather a little more information, but please go ahead, Councillor Young.
I'd be prepared to pay the balance of our grant account, whatever is in that account, and be done with it.
Councillor Jansman.
I would second that motion. I wanted to make mention, just a thank you for this. Thank you to Christine for giving us the opportunity to discuss this, because more and more we're building a partnership and a relationship with our high school, which is I think we would all agree really, really important. I had the privilege of being introduced on behalf of the town of Prescott to 3 of the artists from Christine's art class that did the feathers on the orange the other day, and it just was a prime example of the needed partnership between the two of us. So this is a way for us to put money where our mouth is, so to speak. So I would second Ray's motion.
Okay, so that was 2650 was the remainder. Mr. Armstrong, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And we have no other pending requests that you're aware of?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. So Councillor Young, you've made that motion. Councillor Jansman, you've seconded it to get that on the table. So that would be contributing at 2650, the remainder of what we have in that fund to this project with South Granville District High School. Other comments, questions? So now I'll call the question. All in favor? Sounds good. And it is good to help out Christine as well. She's done so much for us too with her art classes and so forth. And I know that's a partnership that will continue as we go forward, because we still have a few projects they're in the middle of finishing. So always great to be able to work with our friends at the high school as much as possible.
Excuse me, Mayor Todd, I did have a question, but.
I'm sorry, Councillor. I didn't see your hand.
Well, my hand was up and I voted accordingly, but it makes no mention, pardon me, of where this is. I'd just be curious, $5,000 for a bus sounds like a pretty good trip to me. It's only 9 people. I'm curious how far it is, where this conference actually is taking place. It doesn't say in here. And the other thing I was going to mention is that over the course of COVID, we basically haven't gone anywhere, despite the fact that we have money that is allocated for us to go to conferences and stuff. So we have saved some money on that over the last couple of years. And even if we didn't take the money from what's left over in our, I think it might be taking that into consideration and in here. So I would have voted in favor of it anyway. It's just you caught my hand up with the question.
Apologies, I didn't see your hand up. So yeah, so I think I think it's tonight Niagara Falls. So it's a little ways, and hotel rooms are certainly not inexpensive these days either. But you're right, Councillor McConnell. We haven't had the conferences in Toronto for a few years now. We have had AMO in Ottawa, which I did attend just this past August. But other than that, I didn't stay overnight, of course, because it's so close to town. So we have been saving. Everybody has been on that with all the Zoom meetings and so forth. Okay, so if you all communicate that back to Ms. Holm, that'd be great, Lindsay. Thank you. So on item 8, as I said, I will declare a conflict on that and let Councillor Young take the meeting at this point for item 8, just in regards to 8.2.
All right, thank you. And you wonder why Brett lost so much hair? I am sitting here because I am the deputy mayor for the month of October and November. And Mayor Todd has declared a conflict of interest, so it's up to me to take the chair until he comes back. So we are dealing with 8.2, Municipality of Brighton resolution, which is to help. And a recommendation that the resolution of support from the municipality of Brighton be received, and that council of the town of Prescott supports the resolution, and that this motion be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, the Honorable MPP Steve Clark, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, and all municipalities in Leeds and Granville. Someone prepared to make that motion?
This motion is under consent report, so the motion to accept
Has already been made.
No.
No. Okay.
So that motion, if council chooses, would be approved through the consent motion.
Okay.
So it's the motion under 8.
Right. Second. No. Right. So we need a mover
Yeah.
and a seconder for 8.1 and 8.2.
Yes, that all items listed under consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented.
Okay.
I'll leave that for you.
Councillor Schenker, I appreciate that.
I'll help you out.
You'll help me out too, Lee? Well, thank you. Seconded by Councillor McConnell. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Apparently I'll be back later, so stay tuned.
All 5 of us.
Thanks for. And moving on to 9 committee reports, we have no committee reports this evening. Item 10, mayor's portion of the evening. I don't think I have anything really pressing there tonight, so I will pass it on to 11 and outside boards, committees and commissions, and start as always with Councilor Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, and I have nothing to report.
Quick tonight. Councilor Jasmine.
No BIA or planning report from me either. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McConnell.
Well, I was going to say something, but given the fact that neither one of these two commented on it, I'll just let it slide. So,
Okay. Councilor Ostrander.
No, I have nothing either, your worship.
Oh, it's a trend. Councilor Schenker.
Might as well stay with the trend. Keep it moving.
Really? And I had a whole bunch of stuff.
You get the chair. You get the chair.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have a couple of things. I did attend the Board of Management meeting of St. Lawrence Lodge, and while we are under shutdown, we have several residents and staff down with COVID. So we're dealing with that outbreak. But on the positive side, our population has grown. We're up to 90%, almost 97% of capacity, which is good because we've been having trouble getting people into the lodge, even though they're empty beds. So we're working our way through that, and we have a long list, but it's just to get through the list. So that's the good news. I also went out to Kentville last week for the Granville Community Futures Development Corporation AGM. And I did not bring the numbers with me, but I can tell you that they had another good year, very good year. They made money, and consequently, even better news, they have more money to give out. So if you have a business idea and you're looking for help, they can help you with a business plan or advice or money. So there are lots of people out there that would like to open a small business and they just can't figure out how to get started. I would suggest that's the first place you go. Thank you.
Very good. And this is the first year too with Katie Nolan, is it not?
You know, Lynn,
Replacing Heather Alls.
that's right. And it's been a 33 years, 32 or 33 there. Charlotte MacArthur was honored for her 32 years of service. And I always like to point out that I was on that board before Charlotte was hired. So I take credit for Charlotte and Heather and all of those that came after. So thank you.
Very good. Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Young. Always the group we forget about sometimes, and we shouldn't, because they've done such tremendous work and helped us with municipal projects, in addition to helping the business community as well. So done tremendous work. So thank you very much for that.
Excuse me, would it be all right if I asked Ray a question?
Sure.
Ray, in regards to St. Lawrence Lodge, and you may not know the answer to this, but having been on the board for 8 years, I'm always interested. They've had a big sign out there for a long time looking to hire people.
Oh, yes.
St. Lawrence Lodge. Do you know if they've had any success?
As we have had a few, but we are still short of staff, very short of staff, RNs and PSWs.
Yep.
Yeah, PSWs. Yes, they're short. There may be other shortages as well that I'm not aware of, but I know that both of those are running short. Our salaries for the year to date are running below what we had planned. And that's an indication that we have some severe shortages and have had for a long time.
Did the lodge, if I may, did the lodge lose many during the pandemic? I don't mean to death, I mean retiring, you know.
Yes,
quitting.
it's been a combination of retirements and COVID and burnout probably. So it's just like every other healthcare institute, we're short people. So.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Yeah, it's going to be quite some time before the whole system even begins to recover from the shock of the last 2.5 years.
I don't know. I think, Brett, it's way off the topic, but it seems to me that just throwing money at the healthcare system is not the answer. I think somebody's got to tear it apart and put it back together.
Yeah, it's going to be quite the challenge. I should note we are looking at just in connection to this a little bit because the main topic was physician recruitment, was that meeting of that tri-council, and I think we're looking October 12th now. I think the CAOs have kind of finalized that as the date we'll be hosting here at the fire hall, and I believe staff was meeting with Dr. Matthew, I think, or has it already happened? So we are moving forward on that because we didn't want to let that just sit back with regard to the elections. Obviously, we're in an election period, things are in flux, but physician recruitment's an important thing. Lindsay, did you have an update on, did you know that? Or Matt, did you know if Matthew's still hanging in there?
So the meeting will occur the middle of this week with Dr. Matthew. And we're looking to have the meeting next Wednesday, the 12th at 6 p.m. at the fire hall.
Excellent. Thank you. Just wanted an update for people at home as well, because everybody had such a major topic, physician recruitment, and doing what we can to sort of begin bringing in the general practitioners, and also, as Dory mentioned, that meeting a few months ago, nurse practitioners, if there's to recruit them as well. So definitely good that we're moving on that. So October 12th is when we're looking at, but Mr. Armstrong will confirm that in the next few weeks. So thanks, everyone. So we can move on to 12. And as noted, I'd like to move 12.1 down to the bottom of this section. So we'll go straight to 12.2. That's staff report 97-2022, electronic monitoring of employees. Recommendations that council approve the electronic monitoring of employees policy is presented in staff report 97-2022. Oh, it is? Okay. For some reason I thought this was you. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So before you have the report as well as the recommended policy, And as of April 11th, the Ontario businesses, when the legislation was passed, that anyone with more than 25 employees had to have an electronic monitoring policy in place. This doesn't change what we're currently monitoring or tracking. This is simply putting it down on paper so that it aids in the transparency perspective. In the report, it talks a little bit about what electronic record monitoring means, as well as what must be in the policy. And really, that's what we've tried to capture. While the legislation was passed on April 11th, it gave until October 11th for businesses to have these in place. This is a topic that came up recently in a meeting between the Leeds Granville CAOs, and realizing that many of the municipalities hadn't had a chance to present this particular policy to councils as of yet. Leeds and the Thousand Islands had presented theirs and passed it, and that's largely what ours is based on at this time. So it really just goes through. We do have GPS on all of the trucks, and it monitors where the trucks have been, how fast they were traveling, when they were turned on, when they were turned off, things like that, and the route that it took. There's obviously the ability to get into buildings through the swipe, which is tracked and monitored. Computers, cell phones, and desktops, everything that is on those and processed through those, the town has the ability to look and review all the emails on the server. Obviously, if we require or to respond to a freedom of information request, then we have to have access to those. Security cameras that we already have a separate policy for, as well as any town provided software. As always, privacy and confidentiality supersedes this particular policy. And so the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection Privacy Act supersedes it, as well as some of the complementary pieces of legislation policy include the Employment Standards Act, our own code of conduct for employees, our employee confidentiality policy, the appropriate use of and care and security of electronic resources, employee discipline, employee termination, and investigation procedure policy. So that's what is in front of you this evening, and more than happy to answer any questions there might be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I will open up for comments, questions from members of council. Councilor Young, please.
I know what this means, Mayor Todd, but that is an absolutely awful heading. You know, it's like they've all got a bracelet around their ankle.
Tagging everybody.
Exactly.
Any other, Councilor Shanker?
Sorry, Matt, you may have said this in your presentation, but can an employee or a council member or a volunteer request not to have this done?
No, this is simply the requirement by the municipality to state what they are currently monitoring, and all of those things that are being monitored are currently within the Employment Standards Acts, as well as municipal freedom of information. Really, the intent of our understanding behind this requirement of policies is that so all employees know exactly what's being monitored.
Follow up?
Yeah, so, sorry, so in terms of what's being monitored, if we have if they have a work phone, that's monitored. If they have a work tablet, that's monitored. Work emails.
That's correct. So all of these things can be monitored. They are recorded, but they would only be actually accessed if there is an issue, whether that's a request for information from freedom of information, or if there's a concern related to a particular event that occurred, but they're not actively monitored.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think the biggest area, I think we have pulled information in the past and where the plows have been at certain times, if there's been an accident or anything like that. That's the main way we've really used that. Is it not, Matthew?
That is correct.
Thank you. Right?
And that's exactly what I was going to say. The positive side is we got a complaint about a street not being sanded or whatever, and there was an accident, and you can go to the monitoring system and say, The sander went down that street 10 minutes before the accident.
Yeah, that has come up on a few occasions. I think we've been doing it for a number of years now. I think we were one of the first smaller municipalities to implement this quite some time ago. I think I had Councillor Jansman and Councillor McConnell. Sorry, Leanne, did you have your hand up as well? Sorry.
Just a comment. I liked reading in the report, and Matthew mentioned it too, that it was because of networking with the CAOs that it was initially written by one of our leads in Thousand Islands, which is a good sign of just communicating and knowing, helping each other out, that kind of thing. I thought that was cool. And I understand from the report as well, Matthew, that each employee is going to get a copy of this policy. And so perhaps knowing you and your HR experience, it would be a good opportunity to explain the proper use of for instance, cell phones, and that they are town property, and that this is not meant to be a big brother thing. It's just something that has to be mandated.
Absolutely. So each year we require employees to go through the security and appropriate use of resources. And so this is a great opportunity to kind of highlight exactly all the things that are tracked and could be used in the course of just investigating an event or responding to a concern that a resident may have.
It's good to underline again, it is passive tracking for the most part. It's only brought up if there's just, if anyone, it says the electronic monitoring of employees, you said it does sound a little iffy, but so it's kind of good to underline that. Thanks very much, Councillor Jasmine. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I think it's important to note, and it has been mentioned here, that if it's needed, it's not like we're going to hire somebody to sit and go through everybody's phone records and that type of thing. But if a situation comes up, we have the ability to do it. A good example of that is the fact that we have several cameras around town that are focused on the marina, for example. And if there is a problem at the marina, then we can go back and look at the video that was there. But nobody's sitting looking at the video all the time. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion? And I did ask for a mover in a second of this. I did not. Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Young, to approve the electronic monitoring of employees policy as presented in the staff report 97-2022. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for catching that. And we are now at 12.3, staff report 98-2022, appointment of a staff person for the approval of site plan control agreements. Recommendation is that council direct staff to prepare and bring forward a bylaw to the council meeting of October 17th, 2022, to appoint the CAO as the staff person with the approval authority for site plan control agreements between the town of Prescott and developers, and authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign approved site plan control agreements. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Jansman, second by Councillor Burton. Over to you, Mr. Armstrong, for a review of what this all means.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So on April 14th, Bill 109 received both passage and royal assent, and that was the More Homes for Everyone Act. Part of the items in that bill, which we'll discuss later in the evening under resolutions, was for refunds. Another portion was that site plan control approvals would no longer go through council, but actually be appointed a staff person for approval. So what we've done, and again, this was a topic of discussion with the CAOs at a recent meeting. And what I did is kind of went through exactly how we go through our current process for site plan control, and then being able to speak to how we could do that in the future. So currently what we do is we go through the process, and which I've outlined in the report. And generally a developer will kind of come forward with some ideas around what they would like to do in terms of development. So we have what we call a pre-consultation meeting with the developer or prospective developer. And that really outlines and gives us an understanding of what they're looking at, as well as what the applicable reports might be. So that wouldn't change under this. We would continue having those consultation meetings, and they would be continued to occur as they currently do. Then generally a developer will submit a site plan application. It's reviewed for completeness. And again, that wouldn't change with this process. We then go through the site plan application, forwarding all of the applicable to all the applicable third parties, as well as sending out for peer review and to each of our departments for comment. So again, that wouldn't change, and we would continue going as we do today. The studies, reports, and plans are sent for peer review. That might require a couple revisions as they go through addressing any comments or concerns through the peer review process until we come down to a final version of the engineering plans and reports that everyone is comfortable with. Again, that wouldn't change. From there, what we would head towards is developing the site plan agreement. And again, that wouldn't change. What we currently do is take that site plan as well as the draft site plan control agreement to the Planning Advisory Committee for comment and approval. This is where it would change a little bit, where it would still go to Planning Advisory as information only to gain feedback, but it would not rise to council for approval. The site plan and site plan control agreement are currently taken to council, and this again would change where the site plan control plan as well as the agreement would be taken to council for information under the consent agenda. If council wishes to discuss them, then that's completely acceptable, but it wouldn't be sought for a formal approval by council. So after it goes through Planning Advisory, after it has gone through council, both for information, just seeking any feedback there might be, then the final site plan control agreement would be approved instead of by council by the person authorized by council to do so. And so that again is the third change. And then the fourth change, currently, once council approves a site plan control agreement, it normally comes back in terms of a bylaw to be enacted. That's no longer required or generally allowed under the new changes. And so with the bylaw that we would bring forward, if it's approved, it would allow or give force to the mayor and clerk to sign any approved site plan control that had gone through the process and was approved. So really when it comes down to it is, and this piece of legislation wasn't something that, that I don't think municipalities kind of gave feedback on, but certainly this is what we're kind of now left with. And so appointing an individual of staff is what we're required to do. Now, just want to talk a little bit about how we currently work on site plan control agreements, and right from the pre-consultation meeting all the way through to Planning Advisory and then on to council, we take a team approach to that. And so involved would normally be economic development, our operations department, our building and bylaw department, our planners, as well as fire department and myself. So we take a team approach to it. We work through all the feedback, comments, suggestions, and try to find a reasonable middle ground that is both satisfactory to the developer, as well as making sure that we are working within all of the legislation and regulations that we're bound by. And so that would not change as part of this process. And so that's kind of how we're saying we would continue with that. We would still bring it to Planning Advisory. We would still bring it to council for information. And then really the only difference is that council would delegate their authority for approval to the CAO as opposed to doing it themselves. This is required if a municipality has deemed that site plan control is a requirement in the town. which the municipality of the town of Prescott has in the past. And so in order to remove that, you would have to remove that entire bylaw. And then we wouldn't have site plan control, which has its own set of problems if we decide to not go through that process. So that's my report, and more than happy to answer any questions there might be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I'll just note before I do open it up that this is this recommendation and the report is about the appointment of a staff person. This is about an internal issue. So we do have the council will have the chance to discuss Bill 109 shortly under 13.1, but I would ask that if there are any comments about that, that be confined to the next item where everyone can speak on that, because I will have to vacate the chair for that discussion. So start off with, I think, Councillor Young and then Councillor Shankar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I have a couple of issues. First of all, the Planning Advisory Committee, will they have anything else to do if they're not going to approve site plans?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so they still have rezoning applications to work on. They have providing feedback on the site plan. They also have the sign bylaw and CIPs to review. So those are just some of the items that that they would currently go through.
Thank you. The other thing is, I really don't like being, as a counselor, being left out completely of this process. If it comes to council to be ratified by bylaw, and we really have something that we don't like, and we vote against the bylaw, what happens?
So it would no longer come to council for the bylaw. That would, once approved by a staff person, it would automatically be signed by the mayor and clerk.
So the problem with that, Matthew, is that I'm the guy sitting at Tim Hortons having to answer the questions of why did you approve this, or why did this happen? And I'm sitting there saying, because Matthew said it was okay. And that's not an acceptable answer to most people.
At Tim Hortons.
At Tim Hortons.
Yep. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I would tend to agree with you, which is why I wrote the report and wrote the procedure that it would still come to planning advisory and to council, even though it's not required. That I didn't think it was appropriate to not seek council and guidance from both the planning advisory and from council on things that are truly important to the development of the overall town.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Councillor Shankar.
My question, Matthew, was, is this just done to try and speed up the whole process of Bill 109?
That was what the intent, I believe, is for it to happen, yes.
And sorry, the last point you just said to Councillor Young about a site plan control, if it's contested or it's important or something, you'd bring it back to council instead of making the decision yourself?
No, so what I would suggest is we would still follow the exact same process. There would just be no formal approval by the planning advisory or council, but they would still provide feedback and counsel for me to make the final decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shankar. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor Todd. With all due respect to you, Matthew, you've been here for what, 4 years now?
6.
6. Geez, time flies. And you have a pretty good lay of the land, but in the 12 years I've been here, you are the 4th CAO, I believe, that we've had. Some of them haven't been here very long. None of them have been local. And I fear that hopefully you're going to be with us a long time in the future, so this won't occur. But I fear that if we do change staff, and we get a staff who is not familiar with town, not familiar with what goes on here, they may bring a city view to the same position and not approve things the way we would like to have them approved. And I don't know if we can get in any of this any farther without Mayor Todd excusing himself, because we'd be getting into 109. But like Ray, I have concerns about this. And again, I assure you, they're not personal. They are provincially government mandated, I believe, concerns.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I completely
Please.
understand the concerns and reticence. And absolutely no offenses taken. I feel the same way that, in my take of where the slowdowns occur, it's not with the planning advisory and council. So, I think I'll leave it at that, but certainly I understand the concerns. And if you wish to defer this to a future meeting, I'm more than happy to provide additional information that may be required.
Yeah, the only thing I would add with this is really, it's just, I think, internally we have to appoint someone on this. Am I correct, Mr. Armstrong? That's the process.
That is correct.
So I think we're just looking at, is that person Mr. Armstrong now? And anything in relation directly to Bill 109, like I said, I would ask everyone to hold that until that next item. And then you can, of course, give your opinions on that. But this really is, and that's why I'm still here talking to this. This is an internal issue that I did want to, I think, Mr. Armstrong's laid it out. The report is quite strong to show that the team approach is still going to be continued moving forward with regards to how site plan applications are being addressed. So I don't really see dramatic changes here, simply because I think we've got good staff in place and there's a good team approach that includes council with staff on that. And I think there've been some very good, some very efficient decisions made here over in recent years. And I don't see any reason that wouldn't continue. But by all means, if the will of council is to defer this for tonight and ask Mr. Armstrong to come back with a little more information on how this is going to be handled, please, I obviously at the will of what council wants to do with it.
Is there a timeline for this by the province?
So this is effective for any site plan control agreements that are presented to council or to present to the town after July 1st of 2022. So it's effective as per any new site plan control agreements that we receive. And at this moment, we don't have any that have been presented between July 1st and now. We do have a couple that were previous to that, and we will continue working through those. But as of this moment, we don't have anything that is on the table that has to be go under this new process.
Councilor Jansen?
I think correct me, Matthew, it's the initiative of Bill 109 that staff approved the site plans. So it's not really optional for us. Like you said, who is it going to be? Is it possible, Matthew, that we could have like the position of CAO and the position of hypothetically director of operations? Like, could it be a dual or along with the mayor? Is that a possibility?
So as it reads, it is a staff person, agent, or, and they refer to one other thing. We would have to do additional research on whether it can be a member of council or not.
Okay, thank you.
So did we want to bring this back and defer it this evening? I'm not hearing a lot of desire to move it forward, but I did get a mover and a seconder on this one. So it is there if we want to vote on it tonight, or we could defer. Councilor McConnell, you had
I had a question, and I'm reading this, This is for Matthew, if I can, Mayor Todd, through you. Council shall appoint an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality as an authorized person for the purposes of approving site plans and conditions. I don't see anything in there that doesn't preclude this officer from bringing that to council before he approves it. In other words, if you get council's approval before you approve it, which is essentially what we do now, then this still works. What it means is, though, that council might have to meet sooner than they otherwise would. Does that work, Matthew?
At the end of the day, if it's Mr. Armstrong or it's someone else, that person will be reporting either to Mr. Armstrong and then to council, or Mr. Armstrong directly to council. So I think, Councilor McConnell, that's in practice how it would work, Matthew. And I think, we discussed this a while ago, and that's because obviously, the CAO is going to have to be in sync with the council. Otherwise, there may be, the CAO might not be around that long. So, I mean, obviously it's for everyone's benefit to work together, but Matthew, please, I interrupted you.
Yep. So, and I think that was really the intention of bringing it to council for information under consent, that if council wanted to review it, pull it out of the package, have further discussion on it, provide feedback to the CAO before it was approved. That was really the intention there, is that we would be able to do that both from the Planning Advisory Committee and the council, just as we do today, but just not bring back a formal approval or a bylaw to enact it. So really that was my intention, was to still involve all the people that we do today, just a slightly meeting within the regulation and the legislation that in terms of who formally approves or not. But my goal is to always seek council's guidance and advice and feedback, especially when it comes to development opportunities and shaping what the town of Prescott moves forward with.
Are we comfortable with designating Mr. Armstrong? I do apologize for not wanting to get into the Bill 109 issue, but to me, this is an internal appointment, nothing to do really with the policy. So we do have mover and who were they then?
Councillor Jansen is moving and Councillor Burton is seconding.
Excellent. Apologies. Long enough discussion. It's been a long day. So are we comfortable voting on that this evening and appointing Mr. Armstrong? How this is going to work is just going to be, it's like everything, it's going to be a work in progress for the next council to look at, of course. So if there are no further comments, I will proceed with the vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. So that takes us through 12.2 and 12.3. So we're at 12.1 and then on to 13.1. So I will vacate the chair as noted and turn it over to Councillor Young again for those two items.
Pushing 13.1 is quite a novel.
Are we dealing with item 12.1 first?
Just bracing myself for all that reading. I was going to turn the reading over to the clerk.
We can do that. We can do that.
Sure, I'm the mayor. Okay. We're at staff report 96-2022, Bill 3, Strong Mayors Building Homes Act 2022. This is for information only. So we don't require a mover and a seconder. So any comments?
It's an affront to democracy, is what it is. It is an attempt by Ford and the government to remove the power of council, to strengthen the power of a mayor at the
Expense.
I thank you. That's a good word. Is the one I was looking for. The expense of democratically elected processes that we have enjoyed for generations. No municipality in this province should swallow it. And I would hope that we, as well as every other municipality, would send a strong message to the provincial government that we are not going to accept it. Thank you.
I agree with you completely, and thank you for giving the headline to the Recorder and Times for the next edition, an affront to democracy. With the title. Anyone else? Jasmine?
Thank you. I will, I believe that was a motion, and I will certainly second that. It really, it provides, thank you, Matthew, by the way, for the thorough, very thorough report. And it provides no evidence whatsoever to increase accountability or streamline things, or it will just make councils rubber stamped. It's just, I can't even form sentences. I just do not agree.
Thank you. Councillor Burton? No?
Thank you. No, I was the one that brought this to Matthew a while ago, and he's very thorough and in his report, and I strongly agree with everybody actually around the table. I mean, I said it before and I'll say it again, there's no I in team. So
Right.
I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Michael, do you have a comment?
I am concurring with my cohorts here. It appears that perhaps we have the authority to act on this, and we should in the proper direction. I don't have a whole lot more to say on it. I don't think it's going to cure the housing crisis by any means. It may make it worse. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councillor Shankar.
I agree with everyone. I think this was more geared towards Ottawa and Toronto, not small towns. So, but I agree. We don't need it.
Unfortunately, it does have some repercussions for small towns. Some of the authority that it gives the mayor is a little over the top, in my opinion. And anyway, I'm glad we don't have a motion to vote on here, but when we get to the resolutions of Bill 109, we can carry on this conversation. Councilor McConnell?
Thank you, Ray. Something that somebody said, it just twigged something that I had been thinking about too. It does say that it's geared to Toronto and Ottawa, and it may be drifted down to quickly developing municipalities or something like that. Well, that brings the point. What is a quickly developing municipality? We have about 4,300 people here. I'm not sure exactly how many homes we have, but we do have developers right now looking at property in town. And if all of those developers all of a sudden decided we're going to do it, all of a sudden we are a quickly developing town, and here we are. And for a town that has, I don't know, let's say we have 2,000 houses.
2,100 there.
2,100. Well, that was a pretty good guess.
Yeah.
What is quickly developing? Is all of a sudden if somebody builds 2 houses, is that quickly developing? This is just awful. Like it's something that a majority government would bring in right after they're elected, because there's no way they could bring something like this before an election. They would get the boot, I'm sure. But anyway. Thank you.
Okay.
For Jasmine.
Again, should we, before we move on to talking about 109 again, should we here put in the minutes staff direction to create a communication piece?
Matthew, can you help me out here, please?
If council would like to pass a resolution to support what the other resolutions have said so far, staff can receive that direction and craft something for the next meeting for council to review and approve if they see fit.
Make sure it has a front to democracy. in it.
Okay, so is there a significant difference between 12.1 and 13.1?
They are two separate pieces of legislation, one being Bill 3, one being Bill 109. So I think if you wanted to speak about one independently of the other, because they are separate bills and separate timing, that might be appropriate.
So,
Hello?
so you, Deputy Mayor, I do have a resolution prepared. I believe originally we had Councillor McConnell moving and Councillor Jansen seconding, but it's.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
I have that Council of the Town of Prescott direct staff to prepare a resolution expressing its views regarding Bill 3, Strong Mayors Bill Involvement Act, and that a copy of this motion be brought back. A copy of this resolution be brought back to the council meeting of October 17th for final consideration.
I think that covers our feelings around the table. Right? All right. All in favor of that resolution? Michael?
Yep.
Okay. That resolution is passed. All right. So if we go to 13.1. Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act 2022. You don't want to read that for me? Whereas the town of Prescott is in receipt of the resolution from the township of Lynch and the town of East Willenbury, requesting the government of Ontario to revisit provisions of Bill 109 and work with all stakeholders, including municipalities represented by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, to deliver legislation that allows municipalities to plan, grow, and deliver communities that adhere to local, provincially approved official plans rather than strict statutory timelines. And whereas the municipality agrees that the setting of planning applications processed and brought forward to the appropriate approval authority for consideration and decision will help to shorten the process to get development started sooner. And whereas the town of Prescott aims to have rezoning and combined official plan amendments and rezoning applications decided on by the appropriate committee within 45 days and to council within 60 days. And whereas site plan applications and plans of subdivision under provincial policy statement require a broad list of plans and studies. And wherever the plans and studies are peer reviewed by the municipality, which often requires several versions to be resubmitted before the comments, questions, and concerns are resolved. And whereas the municipality has no control over how long an applicant takes to resubmit their plans and studies for further review. And whereas the municipality may not always be the review authority for some plans and studies that require provincial or regional body approval, which the municipality has not control over the time it takes to review. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Prescott requests the Government of Ontario revisit the provisions of Bill 109 and work with all stakeholders, including municipalities represented by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, to deliver legislation that does not hold the municipality responsible for delays in the planning application review process for actions that are beyond their control. And that a copy of this motion be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Honorable MPP Steve Clark, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, and all municipalities and leads in Granville.
Yeah, I missed the first part of it.
I was gonna say pardon.
Good. Anyway, so do we have some comments on that? We need a mover and a shaker, right? Okay. Moved by Counselor Shankar, seconded by Counselor Jasmine. Sorry, Michael, I'll get you on the agenda. So I missed your hand. Okay. Comments?
I repeat what I said, basically, without repeating it. It's the same thing.
It is. Yeah. Any other comments that we have thought of since the last 12.1? Teresa?
Thank you for putting that all in writing, and Bill 109, as we discussed last meeting, it does have some valid points to make the process more streamlined, but for the most part, it's not acceptable. So the resolution reads very well. So very much support that. Thank you.
Okay, and I suspect we're in the majority with regard to our concerns. It seems to me an awful lot of stories are in the press that other municipalities have the same concerns. It doesn't sound like everybody's cheering, even in Toronto and Ottawa.
On that note, everybody's running for election municipally this month. And as I understand it, the mayor of Ottawa, at one point anyway, was not in favor of this. The mayor of Toronto was. I'm not in Ottawa and I'm not in Toronto, and I haven't seen anything about the news, whether that has become an election issue in those two places or not. I don't know.
I believe at least two candidates for mayor in Ottawa are opposed to it.
I think that was Bill 3 though, not 109.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe, but I could be wrong.
It is little aside here. It is interesting to note that the AM CTO, the municipal experts, we received a letter from Alana Arthurs, who of course was a former employee of ours and moved on to bigger and better things as the CAO, and now she's president of the AMCTO. So it was interesting to see her signature on the bottom of one of these letters, which agrees with our view, as far as I can see, anyway. Matthew, is there anything else that we should know about?
No, I don't think so. And this is specific to Bill 109 as opposed to Bill 3. And so I think we've discussed that over a couple of meetings now and looking to move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, this came out of, I believe this came out of an information package 3 meetings ago, and then we asked for a recommendation, and we got a recommendation, and then we got proper wording, and now we're voting on it. So the resolution, which has been read, we are voting on passing this resolution, so, which is opposed to Bill 109. Okay, any other comments? All in favor? Thank you, including Michael. Thank you very much. I turn to return to my other seat. Thank you for your help.
I feel like we should take the chair away every time.
Right?
Actually, somebody's gonna.
Michael on a mover or seconder on a motion, so I thought we should get his name on something. Just to
Yeah.
show that he participated.
Absolutely. So with that, we are on to 14. Bylaws, so under 14.1, we do have the one bylaw this evening, sale of surplus land development drive. Recommendation is a bylaw 42-2022, being a bylaw to authorize the sale of approximately 10 acres of land located on development drive, excuse me, immediately west of the Ontario Provincial Police Station with the corporation of the town of Prescott to 778584 Ontario Limited. Be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Ostrander, seconded by Councilor Young. Thanks, Mike. So discussion on this. Actually, Mr. Armstrong, do you want to just give us some background here on this and for the people at home?
Certainly. So this is a piece of property that is on the north side of Development Drive, immediately west of the OPP station. It was declared surplus over a decade ago, and we have received an offer for purchase. So this is what the bylaw is enacting this evening, and the intention is that it will be split into 4 2.5 acre parcels for further development, and half of those 4 parcels would be developed within 3 years' time. So that's what's in front of you this evening, and we look forward for possible development starting soon.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. What can we provide? I mean, this is the kind of thing we do pass this tonight. There'll be a lot of questions in the community, of course, asking what this entails. What can we provide? What's the company at with their ability to go public and so forth on the usage of the land? What can we say? I don't want to leave it completely blank like this, because all that's going to do is encourage added questions.
So I believe they're looking at industrial and commercial development, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 jobs within the next couple of years. And then perhaps further expansion as they look at the other 2 parcels of land that make up the total of the 10 acres. So we would look to them if they wish to release the information, but we would also be looking for site plan control agreements or any other agreements that are required to be submitted as part of the planning process, and have a full community involvement and information on those as well.
Sure. I always like to provide some details on this, because simply, people are going to be very interested in what could be setting up shop here in Prescott. I guess the one thing I will add to that is it is driven by some local investors as well. So it is some people in and around Prescott. I will note that, and I think we can talk to the principals on that and try to get further information. If we could even bring something back, even if they provide us with something we can share in the terms of a press release, or to bring back to that next council meeting, I think we really owe it to the town to get some further details out. And I don't think that the principals have anything they really need to keep secret at this point. So I would like to move forward with that as soon as they're available to do so. But rest assured, for everyone that is listening to this tonight, this has been, we vetted it. It's come back to council on a number of occasions. This isn't just coming in and being passed this evening. Councilor Young.
I'm sorry, Mayor Todd, this just jumped out at me, even though I reviewed this yesterday. Who is buying it? What is the company name? It is 778581 Ontario Limited on the agreement of purchase and sale, but on the covering page, bylaw, 778584.
Good catch. Is that a typo on one of the agreements, or are we actually dealing with 2 numbered companies?
I believe it is 581.
778581.
Okay,
Is the correct number on the purchase and sale.
but it isn't on the bylaw.
No.
So if we could amend that motion then to pass this as amended with the changes to that 778584 becomes 778581, correct, Matthew?
That is correct. And I am confirming that it's 581.
Okay, so we can just ask for a friendly amendment, the mover and the seconder on that to amend that to 581.
The other point, which Mayor Todd is dancing around, is this is being sold to a developer that presumably will own the property and then lease it, or perhaps in the future sell it to somebody else. And I think we've made provisions in the purchase and sale agreement that they can do that. Many times we get involved before somebody can flip a piece of property.
Which is also the case here.
It is the case here as well. That's correct. But it also, we know full well that's probably going to happen. Well, I guess we don't know full well, but it's a strong possibility. Right?
Yeah, from how it's understood, we are dancing around the specifics here, and we really do need to bring back some further information on this. So, Mr. Armstrong, if you could contact them to see what we can release on this after we pass this evening, because that is going to be one of the first questions from Tim Horton's gang and also the media here in the town as well. Although I know it's already circulating to a certain point because, as I mentioned, they are local investors that are heading this whole initiative off. Any further comments, questions on this sale? Oh, sorry, Lee, go ahead.
Schedule D, option to repurchase. We have had options to repurchase before and have wound up repurchasing. In number 4, it says the purchase price to be paid by the town if it exercises the option shall be an amount equal to 100% of the purchase price paid by the optioner to originally require the lands from the town, prorated based upon the amount of acreage then remaining. I was under the impression that that is not what we did, that we didn't pay 100% of what we had paid for it. We paid somewhat less as a penalty. Am I incorrect there?
So in far past agreements, it's 100%. In more recent ones, it has ranged between 90 and 100%. So really depending on the willingness of the developer to agree on that. I believe we're sitting about half and half at this point in terms of.
We lost you.
Mr. Armstrong?
You went on mute.
On mute there.
Sorry, it's sitting at about 90%, or sorry, half and half of those that are at 90% versus 100% in the more recent ones that have been signed in the last 3 years.
I would be happy at 90%. I'm not happy at 100%. Let's face it, 2 years goes by, nothing happens. We have lost 2 years of possible development on this property. We have staff time involved, possibly legal fees involved. I don't see any reason why this should be 100%. They should never be 100%. I would say 90 would be the maximum, in my opinion.
Thank you. Absolutely fair point. But Matthew, we did discuss this at some point. And I thought we did mention about referring this to legal to see what the strength of that would be, whether it's, 190, 80, what the standard was, if there was such a standard with regards to these buyback clauses, and what was most enforceable in a court if they ever get to a situation. Did we do that, or am I imagining that one? I thought we did discuss that at one point, referring it for legal.
Yep, and it was referred, and there is no real standard. Both 90 and 100% are perfectly acceptable.
Okay, so I guess it is a question, if anyone feels with Councilor McConnell that we alter that, although I think we do alter that at this point stage in the agreement. I think that might be we'd have to put this back and have further discussion. So I'll just put it out there for the entire group if anyone's interested in going down that road and altering it now, or is it something that, is just sort of kept on the edge of the desk for a future council to take a look at if there's a potential to change that going forward. Because we makes a good point there, and we have discussed it in the past about trying to claw back a little bit more simply because of the expense and the fact that we're not selling land for it to remain fallow for a few extra years. We're selling it for development in the short term. But is everyone okay with letting it go with 100 in the provisions now? I'm seeing a lot of nodding. So anything further on this sale? So I will note again that the amendment to the one replacing the 4 in the numbered company. But other than that, this is the agreement. Councilor Shankar, do you have a comment?
I just wanted to say that within the documents that we have that are public, there is a name there.
Is it actually is?
Yeah. So I don't know if you want.
Okay.
So I've seen it, but I did find it.
Yeah, I didn't realize we'd, so Viking Energy is, is it? It's, wonderful. What is now?
George Coleman.
Okay, so I mean, I think we have to get it out there at some point anyways. So a little bit of the cat out of the bag. It's too bad you hadn't just said George. So, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. But Mr. Armstrong, yeah, please contact them and see what we can put out there, because we have been issuing press releases after we have property sales like this, and anything we can do in there with comment from them in a little more detail on what exactly is happening there, that of course doesn't get into any proprietary technologies or whatever they may be looking at the site as well. Okay, anything further? Any more secrets I can divulge tonight? Okay, again, I don't think that's an issue, and if George is down there, I mean, he's obviously been tied pretty closely to this publicly. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, so 15, new business. Any new business tonight from any members of council? So no notices of motion. Any notices of motion tonight from members of council? Seeing no. 17 mayor's proclamations. We've got a couple, and I did want to note, did declare this last week just in advance of October 1st, and there is an event tomorrow night that I just a reminder to everyone, I don't know if I can make it, but I'll have to sort it out. We have a representative there but it's for Ontario Cadets Week. So I'll read this one as well, as I did sign it last week. I think we put it out as an email to everyone, but I will read it now because we're just into the third, and the main event for Cadets Week is tomorrow night. So proclamation reads for October 1st and 7th, 2022, Ontario Cadets Week. Whereas Canada has a dynamic cadet program with numerous cadet groups and squadrons across Ontario, and whereas all cadet programs assist young people to develop skills that serve them well in their transition to adulthood, and whereas cadet programs focus on physical fitness, leadership, and teamwork skills, providing experiences not found anywhere else, and whereas cadets are active members of their communities and make valuable contributions to society on a daily basis, and whereas Ontario Cadets Week honors the outstanding young Canadians whose unique personal and collective development through cadet programs will help them be successful in Canadian society, as well as recognize those who support the programs directly and indirectly. Therefore, be resolved that the corporation in the town of Prescott does hereby proclaim, excuse me, the week of October 1 through 7th, 2022 is Ontario Cadets Week in the town of Prescott, and this was dated the 23rd day of September 2022. And we do have two other ones tonight as well. First up at 17.1 is Fire Prevention Week. And proclamation reads October 9th to 15th, 2022, Fire Prevention Week. Whereas Prescott is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Prescott. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. And whereas smoke alarms detect smoke well before you can, alerting you to danger in the event of fire in which you may have just seconds to escape safely. Working smoke alarms save lives by providing early warning of fire so you and your family can safely escape. And whereas Prescott residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the sounds of the alarms and knows how to proceed when those alarms go off. Residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas Prescott residents will make sure their smoke and carbon monoxide alarms meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities. And whereas the Prescott Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and public fire safety education. And whereas Prescott residents are responsive to public education measures and can take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas this year is the 100th anniversary of Fire Prevention Week, and the 2022 fire prevention theme for this period of time is Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. Therefore, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott does hereby designate October 9th to 15th, 2022 as Fire Prevention Week, and we encourage the residents of Prescott to protect their homes and their families by heeding the message that fire won't wait, plan your escape, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Prescott Fire Department. And this proclamation is, of course, dated today, the 3rd of October, 2022. And we do have one more proclamation for October 16th, 22nd, 2022 for Ontario Public Libraries Week. Whereas Canada's libraries are partners in fostering lifelong learning, they play a vital role in helping Canadians of all ages access the information and tools that they need to live, learn, and work. And whereas Canada's libraries help Canadians develop the skills required to find and evaluate information in order to adapt and succeed in an information-based economy. And whereas Canadian libraries bolster economic prosperity by providing access to essential decision-making information for organizations and businesses. And whereas libraries in Canada enhance the quality of life for all Canadians and help ensure that Canadian culture continues to flourish and thrive. Therefore, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott does hereby designate October 16th through the 22nd of 2022 as Ontario Public Libraries Week and encourages the residents of Prescott to use the Prescott Public Library during Ontario Public Libraries Week under the theme this year of One Card, 1 Million Possibilities. And that's, of course, dated today as well, the 3rd of October, 2022.
Just a note that the first one wasn't on the agenda, so we just need to add that one, the cadet one.
Oh, yeah, that was, I did send that out just last week for everybody's notice, because it did come in late. I wanted to get it done for October 1st. So just wanted to read it tonight. So if we could just add it that I noted in the minutes. So that takes us to item 18, period for media questions. I'm assuming we have no media on the line this evening. So 19, closed session. We do have a closed session tonight. A recommendation reads that council move into closed session at 7:26 p.m. to discuss matters pertaining to 19.1, that's approval of the closed session minutes from our meeting of September 6, 2022. And 19.2 is board appointments. That's under section 239(2)(b) of the Municipal Act. So that involves personal matters of an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And we are asking the CAO, treasurer, clerk, and deputy clerk to remain. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Shankar, seconded by Councilor Burton. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And if everyone's okay, we can move right into this. I think unless anyone's